Hey guys, Elevator Guy 15 here. So today we are at the Maine Narrow Gauge Railroad in Portland, Maine. And as you can see, I am riding in this open air coach here. Sitting on the bench. And it's getting a bit crowded. In the meantime, let's get a view outside into beautiful downtown Portland. What a beautiful view of the sea. I'm also thinking of going biking over here too. Alright, I'm going to stop the camera for now and start once departure time comes. That's it. And here we go. Enjoy the ride.
All right, we're going to head over to Ocean Gateway for just a minute. We're going to see if there's anybody there that wants to join us on this excursion. But when you guys got on the train, did you notice how the rails were not very far apart? They were only 2 feet, 24 inches, and that denotes our narrow in the Maine Narrow Gauge Railroad.
We're going to get a good view.
The standard is 4 feet, 8.5 inches. And that was determined by the gentleman that had a gauge back in the coal mining days. They had rails going into the coal mines, and his gauge was 4 feet, 8 inches wide. So everyone, including the trains back then, said, let's all be standard. But the trains, after a few excursions, came back and said, you know, can we have an extra half an inch to make it more comfortably to go around those corners? So 4 feet, 8.5 inches became the standard. Anything below that is denoted to be a narrow gauge. And a lot of the ones in the United States were only about 3 feet wide. Now if you're looking out into the Fall River, which is the body of water in front of us, you'll see a lot of pilings in the water. Those pilings used to house a conveyor belt. So the Fall River here in Portland does not freeze in the wintertime, but the St. Lawrence River up near Montreal does. And they still needed to get their grain and other supplies to Europe. So they would put it on the train, bring it down here to Portland, on the conveyor belt, into the hull of the ship, and the ship would take it off to Europe. In the springtime then, the park here, or the Fall River here, was very quiet in the springtime. Because by then, the St. Lawrence River had thawed.
There's the beach.
Take a look out into the water, you will see the ferry with the yellow stripe on it. There are 2 of them coming back probably from Peaks Island. Now you're hearing the horn that's being blown here to tell people that we are coming through. We have the right of way on these rails until the year 2024, and yet safety is our main concern. So wherever there's a potential vehicle or pedestrian crossing over our rails, we will make sure we notify them with the horn that we are on our way. The building we just passed is that of the CAT, which is a ferry from Maine to Nova Scotia, and that takes about 5.5, 6 hours today. It used to take 10 to 12 hours in the past.
We're stopping.
So the CAT is definitely getting faster. And here we are at Ocean Gateway, that was built in 2008. And then in 2011, they built the extra berths for the large cruise ships that come in out in the water. And we can house in one day about 3, perhaps 4 large cruise ships. There is one in today, I believe, unless it's left. But again, Portland normally takes 75 to 80 cruise ships a year in the September-October timeframe. This year, we are expecting over 100 cruise ships. Okay, so that horn says we are at a full and complete stop. If you wanted to get up, stretch your legs, or change your seats, now would be the time to do it. And so, because the engine is staying on one side of the train, the eyes for Dave, our engineer, belong to Catherine now. So Catherine, our conductor, will remain in the caboose all the way to the bridge once she gets back on board.
There goes the trolley. It's a good view of the river. There's a trolley stopping. There it is, stopped. Oh, Joel.
All right, I think Catherine's on board, so we are now going to head over to the bridge.
Wonder what that is. What that building is.
Okay, so now if you want to take a look out on the water side, you should be able to spot two different lighthouses. One on the right, one is on the left. The one on the right is a little smaller, and it is called Bug Light.
I don't see
People
a
thought it was
lighthouse.
cute as a bug, and the name stuck. But it is also known as the Portland Breakwater Lighthouse. And then to the left of that, you will see another lighthouse, which is Spring Point Ledge Lighthouse. Hi guys, how y'all doing? So Spring Point Ledge Lighthouse is one of 47 caisson lighthouses in the United States. It is the only caisson lighthouse, though, that you can actually walk to from the land. All the other ones are surrounded by water. So that one has a 900-foot rock wall that was built from the land.
There's
which
a
is
coach
the point
right
in
over there.
SMCC campus, which is Southern Maine Community
Those
College
from
campus,
the previous
out
train.
to the lighthouse. It was built by the Army Corps of Engineers to help protect the Portland waterfront here. And it is still run and operated for the foghorn and the lights by the Coast Guard. The rest of it is maintained by a trust. And this is their 120th year anniversary. So they're open today from 10 to 3. They're open on Saturdays and Sundays and Tuesdays in the summertime. And then Maine Lighthouse Day is September 9th, where most of the lighthouses should be open and free to the public. That was a different kind of skateboard. Now, on the side of the lighthouses, you would find Fort Preble on the SMCC campus. Across the harbor from that, you will find Fort Scammell. So Fort Preble on one side, Fort Scammell on the other. And Fort Scammell is on House Island, which is a privately owned island. Also, Fort Scammell, or House Island, was the U.S. Immigration Quarantine Center, and that was run for the early 1900s. So if you wanted to visit Fort Scammell, you would connect with the island owner, and he does provide tours, I believe, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then to the left of that House Island, you have Peaks Island. So Peaks Island is our most populous island out here. And as you saw, the ferries that just came in, they go back and forth about 12 to 14 times a day. It's a 20-minute ride one way. Now folks go out there, bring their bikes, ride around the island, or just go and take a walk around the island. Some just go for lunch. They also have entertainment, musical entertainment out there. In the past, they used to have baseball games and other events that would bring the public out to Peaks Island. But again, that is our most populous island out here. Now between us and Peaks Island, you will see a large granite structure in the water. That structure is known as Fort Gorges, named after Sir Ferdinando Gorges, who never came to Maine, but did have, or was given property up here in Maine. And I will talk about another piece of property he had further on down the line. Hi guys! And so Fort Gorges was built to house cannons, and yet unfortunately when it was ready in the late 1850s, the cannons were obsolete because the guns on the ship were much more powerful. So they never placed any cannons out on Fort Gorges, they never commissioned soldiers out there, and they never fought any battles. But if you put together Fort Gorges, Fort Scammell, and Fort Preble, you have the triangle of forts that help to protect the Portland Harbor from the enemy. Now there is also a group called Friends of Fort Gorges who have events held out at Fort Gorges, and they had the Army Corps of Engineers this year helped to fix and shore up the fort so that visitors could go out any time of day on their own. You cannot get there by a ferry, but you can get there by water taxi. You can catamaran out there, you can kayak out there. But again, that should be now safe. They were up here about a month or so ago, so hopefully all is well. Now to the left of Fort Gorges is Little Diamond Island, as well as Great Diamond Island. Those two islands are connected by a low submerged sandbar. On Little Diamond Island, the 2000 census showed us that 5 people live there year-round, and 77 people live year-round on Great Diamond Island. Great Diamond Island is mode of transportation is the golf cart, bicycles, or walking. Any cars or trucks you might see are most likely delivering supplies to the island only. And now we are approaching this area, which is known as Fish Point. Fish Point is owned by the city of Portland, and there are many weddings that will take place here. And we have one this afternoon where the narrow gauge railroad will be involved in bringing out all the guests, and then we'll go back and pick up the bride and her party, bring them on down here, watch the wedding, and then bring the guest back. So again, you see the shade under the tree if you needed to take a break. You see benches that people can stop and rest. So if you're biking, running, or just walking, and you want to take a breather, this would be a good place to do so. Now up here we were given the nickname Calendar Islands. That would denote to some that potentially we have 365 islands. Well, the U.S. Postal Pilot went out, found and registered 136. What some of the folks in the area feel is an island is what you're looking at out in the water, which is sand and rock only. Because you can get to them at high tide and stand on it, they feel that should be denoted as an island. So for us, there's probably more than 136 islands, but it all depends on your definition of what an island is. There's another example further out and to the left, sand and rock only, and there's a couple further out to the left that are just trees. Now looking directly in front of us, way out in the water, you will see a power plant out on Cousins Island. The power plant was owned by CFE until 1999 and then sold to Next Era Energy, and it is still in operation today. And so I see the tide must be coming in, and we've got some folks here. This is known as East End Beach. In the wintertime, this is very dog-friendly, where your dog does not need to be on a leash. But in the summer months, like today, it is people-friendly. So we're seeing the people coming down here on the beach, having a good afternoon, enjoying the beautiful sunshine. We see there might have been a few kayakers that went out earlier. One of them might be going out now. And some people are braving the water, at least with their feet. Now we're going to slow down a little bit more than we are now. Just coming up ahead, we've got another major intersection where vehicles and pedestrians can cross our rails. Our conductor, Catherine, will be getting off and flagging down any traffic. And then she will radio back to Dave, our engineer, and let him know that it is safe to proceed. Bringing it back and forth, home and back here to get to their boat. And so also here is where Portland Paddle will provide you with kayaks or paddle boards and lessons as well if needed. There's some kayakers out on this side. So earlier I told you that Sir Ferdinando Gorges had never come to Maine but was given property. And he gave one of those properties to his deputy, Arthur Mackworth, and that is the island that we're looking at out in front of us on the water side. So that is Mackworth Island. Mackworth Island was at some point given to the Baxter family, and they built the Baxter School for the Deaf out on the island. And then at some point further on down the line, Principal Baxter donated to the state of Maine in order for the School of the Deaf to continue. Mackworth Island is connected to the mainland of Falmouth by a causeway, so you can ride over the causeway. If you're lucky, you'll find a parking spot. Then if you want, there's a 2-mile walking path that was built all around the island, and there is a fairy village on the island for the children. The children can go and actually build fairy houses if they want. And then again to the left, you will see the bridge. That is our final destination. It is boarded up on this end, so we will not be crossing over the bridge. Also, if you notice, it is opened in the middle. So this is known as a swing bridge, and once there was a fire in the early 1980s, that bridge had the bridge swung open, and it has remained there since. So it allows any of the larger boats to get to the other side if needed, without anyone having to worry about it. And so we're going to ride up to that edge, and we will stop. We allow folks to get off for about 10 minutes. And so if you do decide to get off the train at that stop, please do not attempt to walk on that bridge. It truly is not a safe place for you. And while you are in our care, we really do take safety very seriously. Now you'll notice the excess tracks that you see in front of us, and those are used for a runaround if we need it, and that would mean moving the engine from one side of the train to the other. That doesn't happen very often, and we will not be doing that today, but that's just to let you know that that's what we normally do and why we have an extra set of tracks out here. Now also you'll notice on the water side the large granite rocks which form our rock wall or seawall. And because it is getting a little bit high tide, there might be some splash over. And so the rocks may be wet. We ask again that while you are in our care for your safety, you not walk on those rock walls and that you remain in the grassy paved area or walking path area that you can see on the other side of the second set of rails. Again, we will stop here for about 10 minutes. And Catherine, our conductor, will put out an extra step that you see at the end of the platform when you got on. The step off on the side of the water is a lot deeper than when you got on. So we put these extra stools out in order for you to be able to get off safely. Now you're welcome to remain on the train if you'd like. You do not have to get off. But if you do, please do not walk on the bridge, do not walk on the rock wall, and wait for the stool to be put out for your safety. In 1879, Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes was the first one in here in Maine, and they used as much of the equipment as they could bring
Sandy
up
River and Rangeley Lakes is
line.
in Phillips.
Now after a few years, they merged with 5 other active rails at the time and became the longest at 120 miles long. We have the only 2-foot parlor car from that line called the Rangeley inside the museum. So if you've not had a chance to check it out, you might want to take a peek when we get back. The second one was the bridge to the Saco River, 16 miles long. It only took 6 months to build. Now the Maine Central Railroad purchased both of these lines in 1912, but by 1920 decided it was no longer financially viable due to the advancement of the paving of roads, the cars, the trucks. It was competition with the railroad back then. So by 1927, the Bridgeton and Saco reorganized as the Bridgeton and Harrison Railroad. Now we have 2 of its beautiful coach cars from that line, one known as Mount Pleasant, the other one known as the Pondicherry. And Pondicherry used to be what they called the Bridgeton. So the Mount Pleasant is inside the museum, and the Pondicherry is out on the rails, which we passed on our way to Ocean Gateway earlier. And then our third line was the Monson. The Monson was a 2x6, or known as a 2x6, because it was 2 feet wide with the rails, and it was 6 miles long. And just like Dave, our engineer that had to back us up all the way to the bridge, the Monson had to back up from Monson to Monson Junction the full 6 miles. So that's 4 times the length that we just went today. They didn't have a turnaround table large enough to accommodate their steam engines. Now the Monson hauled slate back and forth, and it was beautiful black slate that was known throughout the United States and Canada. That slate was used on the memorial stones for President John F. Kennedy, his wife, First Lady Jacqueline Onassis Kennedy, and 2 of their children. It was also on St. Patrick's Cathedral roof, so you never know where you might find that black slate from the Monson quarries. And then our fourth one was the Kennebec Central. The Kennebec Central was built solely to serve the National Soldier Togus in Chelsea, Maine. Their first engine was known as the Engineer, or the Volunteer, I should say, in honor of all of the veterans that were in the home at the time. Now back in the late 1800s with 200 members at the home in Chelsea, and they, in 1901, had over 2,800 veterans out there. Now they are still a VA hospital today for our veterans. And at one point, they had a circus out there, and they needed to find a way to get an elephant to the up 5 miles. Believe it or not, elephants can ride cabooses. It's the only way we could think of how to get an elephant 5 miles up the street to the circus. So, all was successful. So again, you're listening to Dave, that's tuning the horn. And it's again warning folks that we are coming through this area. And so to stop for the train until it goes by.
I just like waving to people. Don't ask me why, just for fun.
And that was known as the most direct route to the sea. It took goods and people from the interior of Maine down to the seaport in Wiscasset and connected them to the Maine Central Railroad. Now, believe it or not, the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington never made it to Waterville or Farmington. As they say, plans change. The original grand plan, though, was to provide service to Quebec, and it was already charted as the Wiscasset and Quebec line. But the link-up with the Kennebec Central and Sandy River Railroads in Farmington never took place. Had that happened, it would have resulted in a huge 2-foot narrow-gauge empire stretching from the mountains to the sea. That line hauled lumber from the woods, milk, cattle, poultry, grain, and potatoes, and textiles from the North Bassaboro. The line brought coal to the American Woolen Company, general merchandise, and provided passenger service. The Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington picked up high school students each morning and dropped them off each night. Under the ownership of Parson Peck and with the management of Sam Sewell, by 1915, the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington was the largest single enterprise in the Sheepscott Valley and provided employment for around 80 people. After the death of Parson Peck in 1915, his wife Clara Peck became one of the country's only women presidents of a railway line. In 1930, Frank Winter bought the line. With his logging interest in Palermo, his goal was transporting lumber to Wiscasset and then on to Boston via 2 schooners, the Hesper and Luther Little. The Hesper and Luther Little, 2 of the last 4-masted schooners built in New England, unfortunately never left the dock in Wiscasset. And after 60 years of deterioration, in 1998, the town of Wiscasset finally hauled the remains away. Now the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington didn't have a mail contract. Mail was a very lucrative business for the train industry back then, and so the mail was sorted en route to their destination by the clerks. And the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington was over 57 miles long. Now, after all of the railways in the state of Maine were no longer active, and Mr. Ellis Atwood came up from South Carver, Massachusetts, bought as much of the cars, rails, and equipment as he could, brought it back down to South Carver, Massachusetts, and built a railway around his Cranberry Bog, and that was known as the Edaville Railroad. Now, the Edaville Railroad,
I've been there before.
Cars that you were, or the open-air cars that you were sitting on, were flat cars. They were never an excursion car, but the Edaville Railroad had the bench and the rails around it, and so therefore we added them here.
We all know and love that place.
So this line that we're riding on here was never a path for a 2-foot narrow gauge railroad. It was the path of the Grand Trunk Railroad, which was 5 feet wide, and went from Portland all the way up to Montreal. And so in late
and we're pulling into the station.
The railroad went bankrupt, and so the Maine Narrow Gauge Museum team formed, and by 1993 we laid these rails at a 2-foot separation and began these rides. So we've been here quite a few years already. Now, the most that we can do legally on the waterfront is 10 miles an hour. We're probably going between 3 and 5 right now. If you read the history books, they say that the narrow gauge went 25, 45, and even some stories tell you 65 miles an hour. But I promise you, we're not doing 65 today.
Only standard gauge do that.
On behalf of our engineer Dave, our conductor Catherine, and myself Claire, your docent, we want to thank you very much for joining us today. We hope you had a great ride. We definitely enjoyed your company, and we hope you have a good rest of your day. Now, looking out on the water side, you will see a statue as we approach the museum. And that statue is of George Cleves. He is a founder of Portland who settled here in 1633. And back then, Portland was known as Falmouth. So let's wait until the train comes to a full and complete stop, and then you are free to get off the train and go on your merry way.